Hi, I'm Maddie from Velvet Bloom. This is my Tremorz interview.
Where did Velvet Bloom come from?
Originally it was Bloom, and then we found a whole heap of florists were coming up under Bloom, and it was kind of just oversaturated. So we were like, let's add another name to it. And also I feel like when we first started, our music was kind of quite different. So it felt that it was fitting for it to evolve and for the name to evolve with it. So yeah, I think I used to wear a lot of velvet. And then it kind of just it stuck.
So how did you get into music? Like, are your parents musos?
No, mum's claim to being a musician is playing the recorder. She can play hot cross buns. So I started doing music stuff when I was maybe 5. I think I started doing singing lessons and stuff at school just because I was really into it. And mum kind of was like, I think you'd really, really like singing lessons. And then my primary school singing teacher was really sweet. And then I kind of got into the choir in primary school from there. And then yeah, as I kind of grew up, I started doing theatre and stuff as well, which acting wasn't really for me, but it was kind of the next thing that I could kind of immerse myself into music and be doing musicals and stuff. And it was like, I think it was really, really good for me because I learned a lot of techniques from not necessarily acting, but like the musical side of things. Um, and then yeah, I kind of just started playing gigs. When I decided to stop the theatre side of things, I started playing gigs with one of my friends and writing music with her. And then I did vet music at school as well. And then from there I kind of just started doing music full time after high school.
So when you say you started doing gigs, like how, like just cover songs, like at bars,
Yeah.
restaurants, what you?
Yeah, so like I guess a bit of everything. My auntie owned a wine bar, and like she was also in hospitality, so a lot of different restaurants and stuff on the Mornington Peninsula wanted musicians, but we're also super happy to support like young people. And so my friends and I kind of just started to do local gigs and get our confidence up a little bit, and not getting paid like a huge amount of money, but yeah, just kind of doing it for experience and stuff. And then we like maybe when I was in year 11 or 12, we actually kind of started getting paid and yeah, working from music, which was really cool. And like that was kind of cover stuff, which like I'm glad that I did it, but I'm also glad that I'm not doing it now. So yeah,
Wow. What don't you like about it?
just the cover aspect of things. I think like sometimes sometimes it's really nice to cover a song, but I feel like with a lot of those kind of gigs you're trying to appeal to an audience, and so you end up playing like Valerie 100 times a year, and it just gets a bit boring. And also I don't know, I can't like there are some rare songs that you can have a really emotional connection to that you haven't written, but for me I find it a lot more appealing to be playing music that I've written because I obviously have a connection to it. I, for example, play at the Barefoot Cinema every year, and they want me to play original music as well as like if I want to do covers, then I can do covers, or if I have two 45-minute sets of original music, then they're happy with that too. So yeah, it's kind of just like it's good because I'm actually allowed to take on the gigs that I want to be doing, not just money gigs.
And you said there's a few cover songs that you actually connect with. Like, what are
Yeah,
your go-to cover songs?
of
Like,
course. One of my favorite songs, I guess, of all time is "Lover." You should have come over. Um, yeah, Jeff Buckley is absolutely incredible. And so yeah, that's definitely a song that I can connect with. Also, more recently, we've started playing. Sometimes I do some gigs with my guitarist, and we've started to play a few like Napalm songs, and yeah, like it's really, really nice to be able to connect with the music that you're playing. I grew up listening to a lot of Queen and Freddie Mercury, so I absolutely love him and their bands. But also I grew up listening to a lot of Nora Jones and Ella Fitzgerald and Amy Winehouse, so I love a lot of people like that. And then more current, I guess, I kind of started out listening to a lot of people like Bon Iver or Vampire Weekend, and then kind of transitions, or like still listen to that kind of stuff, but I listen to a lot of Haters Coyote now and 3070 and Jala. But yeah, I have definitely a lot of influences. Like I feel like with my writing anyway, it's always different. Like it will come from a very strong emotion of some description, and then it'll kind of evolve from there. But yeah, I tend to be good at writing songs when I'm mad. So it's usually a really, really good release of, frustration. So yeah, it can be pretty therapeutic as well.
So do you remember when was your first gig?
So I remember my first ever kind of big gig, and it was my EP launch. So I had written and recorded an EP with a guy from Fresh Entertainment, and he is like, so it's like a community service through Freezer. Anyway, he helped me produce an EP, and we put on a show at the Toff in town in the city, and it was like I'd never ever dealt with like stage plots or tech specs or anything, and yeah, and also I'd never played at a venue like the Toff, and it was kind of like I just turned 18, and yeah, it was really, really cool. It was really, really fun. So I wrote and recorded that kind of through year 12, and then a bit after year 12, and then I had only put it on Bandcamp, so it didn't actually get properly released until last year, when I was kind of like, I may as well just put this on my Spotify and stuff as well, because like heaps of my friends were like, why don't you kind of promote that music as well? And I was like, oh, I mean, I should. It's kind of, the EP itself is quite an accurate representation of where I came from musically. Like it's got one track is kind of like electronic and experimental, and then there's another track that's kind of like jazz, hip hop and sample based, and then the other one's like folky stuff. So it's like everything that I kind of want to be doing mixed into one.
Are you a signed artist?
Nah.
So you freelancing it?
I kind of just I do it all myself. I don't have a manager or anything, and I enjoy the industry side of things anyway. So like I have a lot of friends who have people that I look up to as like managers, or even they're just doing really, really well themselves. And I feel like for me, it's been really, really important to know how to do all of the back end stuff that's not just music. So I can learn, and I can actually know what's going on with my stuff.
What were your first steps into the music industry? Was it like really daunting? Was it very strange? And there's things you still don't get, or?
I had a bad experience with the record label, and then I just decided to learn everything myself. So yeah, after my experience, I kind of was just like, nah, I'm not gonna get like screwed over again. This is gonna have to change. And then that's when I kind of just like, every time I needed something or whatever, I would just like ask someone who I thought knew about it in more depth than I did, or even like there were some things like, yeah, as I was talking about before, like, knowing what a stage plot was, or tech specs, or like even that side of things that like now I'm just like, oh, that's just second nature. Like you just send off that kind of stuff set times and all of that. Yeah, that was the kind of stuff that I found really like daunting, but I feel like people are really receptive, and they want to, if you ask them questions and stuff, they want to help you. So yeah, I think I learned pretty quickly that if you have a question, just ask it.
You don't really make your money from your music. You make money from your brand, like your image. And then hopefully, like, how do you see it?
I've kind of more recently figured out that aspect of things and the branding side of things. Yeah, it's like, unfortunately, being a musician, you want to be able to just sell your music for your music and have it not be about all of the other shit that kind of comes with it. But yeah, more recently I feel like I've figured out that you do have to consider branding, and yeah, you've really got to be considerate of like where you want to be and like how you're marketing yourself.
I suppose you want them to discover your content on Spotify and then move
Yeah.
them to a platform like Bandcamp where they pay for it.
Yeah, like especially at the moment, with my main source of income prior to our current situation was live gigs and stuff, because like I was playing 3 times a week or something, even if it was for corporate events or whatever. And like I found that our relationships are definitely formed more so from our live performances. And yeah, that's obviously been really hard because we've had to kind of like transition to figuring out how to also make better connections online and moving people to Bandcamp so that we're getting money and stuff. So it's definitely been a bit of a challenge, but also I found that people are really like, if they're supporting you, like they want to just go and like spend an extra $10 or whatever for a tote bag, like they'll pay. Like on Bandcamp you can have an option where it's like pay this amount or you can pay more.
Yeah.
And that's really great because like I've found that so many people aren't paying the amount that I've set our songs for or that I've set our merch for. They're paying more because they want to support musicians, which is like, yeah, it's really great.
Yeah, I mean, that's also a really hard question for you. It's like, how much is one of your songs worth? Like, in terms of like,
Yeah,
what you're doing, like, when you're sitting in there in front of the computer on Bandcamp, and you're like, okay, do I put it for $1.50? Do I put it for $3? Do I put it for $10?
yeah, I know.
So,
That stuff's, I don't know. I guess you just kind of gotta value yourself as a musician, and like, um, they can have a subscription to Spotify or Apple Music or whatever, and they can be streaming it for like nothing. But if they're gonna purchase and like they're gonna purchase it, it's like art. It's like they're purchasing art. So I feel that like, yeah, $3 or $4 for a song isn't actually that much. Yeah.
was there any really bad piece of advice someone gave you?
Yeah, yeah. My favorite was oh, you're a woman in the music industry. You can't have a boyfriend because you have to sleep with people to do well. That was a gem. Yeah, like I mean, you always get bad pieces of advice. I think it's just kind of like whether you choose to follow it or not. And if you respect someone, and if you want to know how they're doing what they're doing, then I think it's important to ask. It's important to ask the people that you respect in the music industry, any questions or whatever, because I'm sure that they'll usually give you a response that you want to hear. So
Do you have any advice yourself for people who are starting out?
yeah, I guess it's kind of just like with music or art or anything creative. It's just like know your worth and make sure that whatever you're creating it with obviously with a target audience in mind and stuff, but also just for yourself. If you're enjoying what you're doing, then I don't think that you should let anyone tell you that you shouldn't be creating the things that you're creating or anything. I think stay authentic and stay true to what you believe in when it comes to creativity.
And so, anyone following in your footsteps as like not sort of being an independent artist, any tips on that? Like you, ask questions.
Yeah, definitely. I think that there's so it's so like people don't think that you're allowed to ask things if you don't know, and I think that that's just something in the music industry that has to change, because like I would have no idea what I was doing right now if I hadn't have asked like people who are in the industry right now. Like I have so many people ask questions about things, and I'm so happy to answer.
Mm. Is there anything you really struggled with, like throughout your entire like your so far? Is there things that always bug you every time?
I think that being in a band, like originally I was in a band with no females, and like that was great. Like my band's incredible, but like sound engineers or whatever would never ever talk to me because like they just assume that you don't know anything. And the boys in my band were actually really great because I would always just be like, I don't know, like ask her, it's her thing. But I think that was something that I really struggled with at the start. It was kind of just like not being taken seriously because I was a female. And I don't necessarily think it's anyone's intention to make you feel like that. It's just, yeah, it's just what happens. It's just what I've noticed. But yeah, I mean, that's changing. So yeah, I'm positive. Yeah.
Do you have anything coming out soon?
We do. There's something really exciting that I'm not allowed to announce yet.
A date?
But yeah, well, a few dates. We're going on tour with some friends of ours, I guess. That's going to be really, really fun, and that's going to be a really big deal for us, I think. Like we've had shows and stuff with them before, but an entire tour is going to be pretty sick. And then we've also got a really incredible compilation album coming out with a whole heap of bands, so I'm really stoked about that. That's coming out under one of our friends' record labels called Cousin Will Records, with people like the Grogans and Polly in the Pockets and like heaps of other bands that we really love. So that's going to be really fun. And then we also have an EP coming out later in the year, so I'm really excited about that.
And you had one demand every time you went on stage. What would it be?
No, I would love to have like mango. Mango's just in every dressing room. I think that'd be really great.
That would be super messy. Like
So messy, but like I think it's worth it. And I eat mangoes like yeah, such a spastic. I feel like yeah, that would make me really happy, and I feel like the band would be really happy with that too. So.
they would like having mangoes. Everyone's on board with that. They love having mangoes.
I mean, I haven't had that conversation with them, but yeah. I think that if I brought it up with them, they would be, yeah, they'd be super stoked.